Hello everybody, my name is Anish Gupta and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast, bringing you the cold hard truth on everything football. Now in today's video, we are going to be doing another tier list, this time for the top 50 wide receivers heading into the 2022 season. Now if videos like these interest you, please consider liking and subscribing down below. It only takes a couple seconds of your time and we truly appreciate it. And while you're down there, feel free to turn on the post notification bell so you won't miss out on football content like this. So, without further ado, here's my tier list for the NFL wide receivers heading into 2022. Alright, so here is the tier list. We're going to consist of 5 tiers. It's going to be S, A, B, C, and D. Now in S tier, it's going to be around 4 wide receivers that I think should be in everybody's consensus top 5. No matter what top 5 you make for wide receivers, those 4 should be there. So I think that's going to be my S tier. And then A is going to be maybe around like 5 to like maybe 13 or something. Guys that you can flip in your top 10, maybe not. And then B is going to be that next tier that I just think are slightly below the rest of those guys in A. And then C is going to be, maybe those average guys who maybe aren't wide receiver ones, but, are good wide receivers nonetheless. And then D are going to be guys that I just wouldn't want on my team. So let's start it off here. We got Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson's going to go in B tier. He's going to go in B tier. And the reason why is because, look, he had a really good season in 2020. He had around 1,250 yards and 6 touchdowns. This 2021 season was really disappointing, though. And I know maybe his heart wasn't in it. I just really didn't see any tendencies for me to say, hey, this guy's still, I would take him over guys that I would put in the A tier. I think he's just a step below now. He's no doubt has the chance to still be a top 15 guy, but the Rams brought him in to be a number 2 wide receiver, a guy that you can put at X, throw down the field, get those 50-50 balls, because you know who they have at wide receiver 1. So I think he's a B tier wide receiver, and I'm okay with that. Kendrick Bourne is a tough one. Depending on where the list goes, I could put him in C, but I'm going to put him in D just because I wouldn't put him as a wide receiver 1 or 2. I think he would be my 3rd guy, and he's a guy that operates out the slot. He does it really well, but just would not make him my wide receiver 1 or my wide receiver 2 on my depth chart. Even at Z, I would take a lot of guys in the slot over him, so he's going in D tier for now. Mike Williams is a B tier wide receiver. He is a top 10 wide receiver 2. I've been saying this for the last, maybe 2 years. He is an absolute stud at catching deep passes. He's really probably one of the best 50-50 ball catchers out there. He makes those really tough contested catches using his frame. He's about 6'5", and the Chargers use him really well. I love the contract that he got. I know it's a little bit, a lot of money. I think it was $20 mil annually, but I think it's worth it for, a guy who you just line up again at Y and you say, hey, we're going to throw it down your way. You better come down with some of these in the red zone, be it, 20, 30 yards downfield. He is their guy. So Mike Williams is in B tier. Cooper Kupp is the definition of an S tier wide receiver. And you guys know, some of our OG fans know how much I love Cooper Kupp. He's been one of my favorite receivers for, 3+ years now. I used to watch him a lot at Eastern Washington, and man, look at how far he's come. I think he had the best wide receiver season of all time last year, and yes, I'm not joking about that. I could go on and on. He had the Triple Crown, he had the Offensive Player of the Year, he had the Super Bowl MVP, he led the league. He was so close to breaking 2 records in Week 18, which is just mind-boggling to me. And he, in the Super Bowl, when it mattered most, him and Matthew Stafford went down the field, down 4, and got the game-winning touchdown drive. So kudos to Cooper Kupp. Totally deserves all the love he's getting, and I really hope he gets paid. But yeah, he is an S-tier wide receiver. And joining him is going to be Justin Jefferson at S tier. I think he's an undisputed right now top 4 wide receiver. He's led the league in receiving yards over the last 2 years since he's come into the league, and he has been so helpful for the Vikings offense, so helpful for Kirk Cousins. And I think the biggest transition this year to what made him an S-tier wide receiver for me was when he finally started getting the CB1 attention that Adam Thielen used to garner. Because in 2020, Adam Thielen was their wide receiver 1 who would garner the tough cornerback matchups, the corners that you put on an island. Adam Thielen would be the ones who would be getting that type of coverage. But now Justin Jefferson has kind of vaulted himself to get that type of attention, get those type of double teams, and he still comes down with the football. He's a tremendous wide receiver. I believe he had 1,600 yards this year and is definitely an S-tier wide receiver going forward. T. Higgins is also going in B tier. I've seen a lot of people put him like right outside the top 10. I don't know if he's there yet. But again, same thing. Since he's come into the league, he's been a really productive wide receiver. I actually had a hot take saying he was the second best rookie in 2020. I thought he had a better rookie year than CeeDee Lamb. But 2021 nonetheless was another spectacular year. Obviously, he had that controversial touchdown catch versus the Rams in the Super Bowl. But again, he's that big play wide receiver, tall, lanky frame, but he can go up and get it. And he's a perfect complement to Jamar Chase. And especially with that Cincinnati offense, they're going to be really potent for years to come. Terry McLaurin's going to go in A tier. I think he's just been really hindered by lackluster quarterback play. And I think Carson Wentz is going to be really, really big for him. I'm not saying Wentz is, some crazy upgrade, but in terms of arm talent, yes, he definitely is. And Terry McLaurin can catch it on all three levels. He's a true wide receiver one, and he can really run any route. He is a special talent out of Ohio State, showing some Buckeye love there. DJ Moore is going to go in B tier as well. I think he is a tad step below those A-tier guys just because of lack of consistency. And I know you can make the same argument because of the lack of quarterback play with McLaurin, but I think McLaurin has been more productive than DJ Moore. And I think DJ Moore, again, same thing with McLaurin. I think they play really similar. He can run any route. He's got great hands. My only thing is a tad less consistency I get with him than Terry McLaurin. So DJ Moore, definitely in B tier. He's definitely a wide receiver one. I'm okay with the Panthers using him as wide receiver one, and I love the contract they gave him. But again, just I think a tad bit below McLaurin. But I think out of these guys, I would definitely rank him over all these guys for sure. I think DJ Moore is at the height of B tier right now. Keenan Allen, I'm going to keep him in A tier. And no, this is not my Cal football scouting bias. But, I mean, what's the argument for him not being there? He's a reception god. I think he's a top 5 route runner still, and he has been ultra productive for the last, 7 years? I mean, this guy has been nothing short of terrific for the Chargers. He's their go-to wide receiver. Just, he's going to give you production. He's one of the most consistent wide receivers we've had in the league for the last decade. He's still an A-tier wide receiver to me. There is no doubt in my mind. Brandon Cooks is going to go in this B tier right in between DJ Moore and Allen Robinson. He had a really underrated year last year. The first few weeks were spectacular. Remember, he had 3 100-yard games to start the year. Production fell off a little bit, but again, how much can you put on just him being productive in that Texans offense? It's really hard. But he's, again, similar to Keenan Allen, he's been one of the most consistent wide receivers in the past decade. Not to mention he's been doing it for a bunch of different teams. He did it with the Saints, he's done it with the Pats, he's done it with the Rams, and now he's doing it with the Texans. So B-tier wide receiver for me. I don't know if I really wanted a championship caliber roster if he'd be my wide receiver 1, but wide receiver 2, no doubt, for sure. The only bad game I've seen Brandon Cooks play was that Super Bowl against the Rams, with the Rams against the Pats, where he had 2 crucial drops, but I haven't seen anything like that since. He's been really good when his number has been called. True B-tier wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb is going to go in A. I am all aboard the CeeDee Lamb train heading into next year. I think he's going to be really, really good as a wide receiver 1 for the Cowboys. I think there was just this little bit of inconsistency with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. Who was the true guy there? I think it's CeeDee Lamb. I think he's been more consistent with the touches that he's gotten than Amari Cooper. I think he's more talented than Amari Cooper as well, better hands. I think he's faster. While he may not be as good of a route runner, he's definitely better after the catch. So CeeDee Lamb, be on the lookout for him. He's definitely going to be a true wide receiver 1 for fantasy purposes and for real life purposes going into next year. Chase Claypool, it's tough. I think he's in the height of C tier right now. I just wouldn't take him over any of these guys. And again, I think he's a wide receiver 2 at best. I just can't see him being that consistent guy that can run, those underneath routes or, maybe over the middle. I think he's a guy that you just throw it up every once in a while and he will come down with it. I just can't see him as a wide receiver 1 on my team. Deontay Johnson. This is really tough. A lot of people will get mad that I'm not putting him in A tier, but I'm going to put him at the height of B tier just because look, he had one great year. He did. He still had a couple drop problems to end the year. And I think out of these guys, I think he's still a step below CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, and Terry McLaurin. Now, that is going to be controversial to a lot of Steelers fans, and I'm used to getting hate from them considering I am a Browns fan, but I think he's at the top of B tier. I think he's right with DJ Moore. I think those two guys are literally, in the same type of ranking for me. Darnell Mooney is going to go in C tier. It's really just a matter of I haven't seen enough of him as a wide receiver one to really determine if he can be one. I think next year they will be going into it with him being that. I think the guy that the Bears will get in round 2, they're for sure going for a wide receiver, but I think they're probably going to look for a tall guy, maybe, a Jahan Dotson if they can. Someone who's tall and can get those 50-50 balls, because Mooney is a guy that you can throw those underneath routes to. And I think Mooney, let's see what he does as a wide receiver one. I'm going to keep him in C tier for now, but to say he can't break out next year, I mean, who knows? I think he definitely has the potential to, but I'm going to keep him in C tier for now. Robert Woods. Robert Woods is also another tough one. I can keep him in C tier. I can keep him in B tier, right? Because if I keep him in B tier, I'm really going off of his past, his 2 years ago production. And I'm going to do that here. I think he's going to be a good compliment to A.J. Brown. Obviously, he tore his ACL. It's sad to see, but when he was with the Rams, he had 2 1,000-yard seasons, and I think he was on pace for another one had he not torn his ACL. Again, same thing. I think he will be a great compliment to A.J. Brown just because he's a very, versatile guy just because he can run routes on all 3 levels. And even on the deep ball, he's sneaky good at it. So if Ryan Tannehill wants to throw it down the field on play action, Robert Woods will be there. It really just depends on his ACL, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he can come back, and I'm going off of his production in 2020 and 2019. Gabe Davis. Look, if we're going off playoffs, I mean, he's like A, B tier, but I'm going to go in the height of C tier right now. I think for Gabe Davis, it's just really, I need to see more. He's for sure, I think the Bills should definitely go into 2022 with him as their wide receiver too. My only thing with him is just, I've been waiting to see it. Now it's just, can you build on that and, produce like a Mike Williams? I think he has the potential to be the best wide receiver 2 in the NFL. And I know that's saying a lot, but really, if you looked at it, Stephon Diggs garnered a lot of the double coverage. And when they lined him up in single coverage against the Chiefs, he torched them. Whether it was Rashad Fenton, L'Jarius Sneed, it didn't matter. He went for an absurd almost 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in a must-win playoff game. So to say he can't do it on the biggest stages, he's shown it, and all-world potential. Michael Gallup is also going to go in C tier. Again, he was really an underrated piece for the Cowboys, and I'm glad they brought him back. I think now they're going to use him, more on the outside rather than try and manipulate him in the slot and outside, which I love. I think he's a great compliment to CeeDee Lamb. Same thing. He is known for his spectacular catches along the sideline. He's got great footwork. He's got a great release package. I love him for the Cowboys. While I do think the deal, $12.5 million, especially off the injury, it's a little bit iffy, but for what he was able to do for them, I think he's a great fit. Tyreek Hill is going to go in S tier. Tyreek Hill is just, he's a animal. Like, he's the cheetah. He can do anything for your team. He can catch it short, take it to the house. He can run deep. He can outrun defenders left and right. He is such a versatile Swiss Army knife, and I think he is going to be great for Miami. And I know all the things about, can Tua even get it to him? Well, first of all, McDaniel's going to bring a spread offense. And in a spread offense, you throw it quick and you get the ball out. You're supposed to get the ball out really quickly. And one of the best things and the most underrated facets of Tyreek Hill's game was the little flat routes he'd run. Because if they were at 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, he would get it a lot of the times. And, I still go back to the play against the Browns. 4th and inches to seal the game. Tyreek Hill on a quick spread option, it's unstoppable just because of how quick he is. And he can turn that, maybe a 1-yard pass into a 80-yard touchdown. So Tyreek Hill is an S tier wide receiver. He's been consistently great. And you can see the Chiefs' production. I know Mahomes averaged 300 yards without him, but you can see it. When he's not cooking, the Chiefs do struggle, especially in the beginning of the year. Jalen Waddle is an A tier wide receiver. And I know people are going to be mad because I'm ranking him over guys like Deontay and DJ Moore, but Jalen Waddle is incredible. I mean, he had the rookie record for receptions, and guess what? He wasn't even being used the way he was used at Alabama. Alabama, he was their speed guy, and for the Dolphins, he was just their, catch first player. Like, he was their Jarvis Landry, and I think he's more talented than Jarvis Landry. He had 104 catches his rookie year, 104 catches. I mean, he would have these 12, 13 catch games, and I'm looking at the stats. It's like this guy would get open every single time. He's a tremendous route runner. He's so good in the red zone, and he actually runs similar routes that Tyreek Hill did. So you've got two guys that really, really run the same type of routes. They've got the same, arsenal in their back pocket, and to have two guys on the outside that can do that is going to be really, really scary in Miami. Juju Smith-Schuster is a C-tier wide receiver. I've said this since he got drafted, and it's a little bit of a back and forth I have with Jack, but because he went to USC, but he's not a wide receiver one. I'm sorry. We tried for 2 years after Antonio Brown left with the Steelers. Can you do it? Can you step up? Because he had that 1,400-yard year in 2018 alongside AB. Has not been the same since AB has left. So he's going to go to the Chiefs. He's going to get a way better quarterback. Let's see what he can do. But as of right now, there is no way in hell I see him being a wide receiver one. I think the Chiefs need someone better than him. He's a good route runner. He's a solid receiver. He's got good hands. He's just not a wide receiver one in today's NFL. Davante Adams is our final guy in S tier. I mean, what's there not to like? In fact, Davante Adams was one of my favorite receivers going back all the way to 2017 when he had 10 touchdowns with Brett Hundley. Jordy Nelson could not do anything. Davante Adams stepped up and said, hey, let me be the wide receiver one in the meantime. He had 10 touchdowns with Brett Hundley as his quarterback. And since then, he's taken off. He's the best route runner in football. Tremendous hands. He can run any route. I mean, he steps up in big games. There's nothing, that you can really hate on with Davante Adams. And the Raiders are getting an absolute stud. They paid a price for him, but they're getting a stud. Hunter Renfrow is going to go in B tier. He is so underappreciated. I mean, the targets he gets in that Raiders offense, I know it's going to dip a little bit with Davante Adams, but you've got a guy locked up in the slot. I think he's a top 5 slot receiver, and I'm not even kidding about that. You line him up there every time Derek Carr looks his way, even before the snap. They know it's going to him on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, and he will still come down with it. He's tremendous after the catch. He's really underrated and being shifty. He is no doubt in my mind a B-tier wide receiver, and I would take him over Brandon Cooks. I think he's in that tier with DJ Moore and Deontay Johnson. Kenny Golladay is a really tough one because if I go off his previous production with the Lions, he's most definitely in A or B. But it's really tough. I think I'm gonna keep him in B tier just because I have to look at what he's done before. He had some injuries with the Giants. I know he's getting paid $18 million. It's a lot, but I have to give him the benefit of the doubt and look at what he did prior. I mean, he was averaging 100 yards per game with the Lions his final 2 years there, and I still have hope that he can be a productive wide receiver. I don't know if he can be a wide receiver one anymore, but I just have to keep him there. I may move him down to C tier if there's too many guys in B, but for now I'm going to keep him there. Kadarius Toney, I mean, I wish there was a too early to tell, but since these are the top 50 wide receivers, we've seen enough of them. I'm going to keep him in D just because we haven't seen enough. It's not a knock on Kadarius Toney. I don't even know where he's going to go because the Giants are shopping him. It's just really too early to tell for him. So, in fact, I'm actually going to change this to too early to tell so that people don't get mad at me when I put Kadarius Toney there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm putting him already, yes. I'm already putting him in B tier. He is that good in my opinion. I mean, he is a reception monster. I think he's the wide receiver one for the Lions. I think he's a guy that you can just trust on 3rd down. He's a 3-down wide receiver. He's a guy that you can line up anywhere, X, Y, or Z, and he's ultra productive. I think he's one of the best route runners in the class that he was part of, and I think he's one of the best wide receivers after the catch. He's also really good footwork along the sidelines. I think he's a tremendous wide receiver. So, yes, I know it's a reach putting him in B tier, but this is kind of going into 2022 as well. I think he's going to break out next year. Adam Thielen, you guys are going to get really mad at me, but I still think he's an A-tier wide receiver. He's had 24 touchdowns the last 2 years, and he missed 5 games. He's the league leader in touchdowns over the last 2 years. He's been so good for the Vikings. It's so underappreciated. He is their red zone guy. He was the #1 receiver till halfway through this year. I've really never hated any part of his game, and I know it's a little bit, biased because you guys OG fans know how much I love Thielen, but he was really such a big help for Justin Jefferson his rookie year, and I think now obviously the depth chart has kind of flipped a little bit, but to say he's not still a top 15 wide receiver in this league when healthy, I completely disagree. I think he's still really good. Yeah, he's getting on the wrong side of 30, but I would still take him over these guys, and I may shuffle it, because obviously guys like Hunter Renfrow and DJ Moore have been a little bit more productive than him, but just because of his red zone ability and those touchdown numbers, I gotta keep him here. Robbie Anderson, Robbie Anderson is going in D tier. He's just a one-play guy. Like, I feel like he always has that one, big touchdown play, and I never hear from him again. He had I think he had 95 catches last year, but this year he was really, really disappointing. And that's really scary considering that the Panthers were down a lot, so they had to throw, and to still not get open is concerning to me. So he's a D-tier wide receiver, and I know people are going to be like, oh, it's probably because of what he said about Baker. No, he's a D-tier guy. I would not want him, on my team as my wide receiver too. Michael Thomas is still an A-tier. I truly mean that. I know he missed all of 2021, but in 2020, he still had 90 yards a game. And then 2019 is not that far removed, guys. Like, he had one of the best wide receiver seasons ever in 2019. He had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons before getting hurt in 2020. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance. I think, again, the slant boy talk, I'm really not a fan of it. I think he's a tremendous wide receiver, one. And I think he's going to be, reinserted into your top 10 list after 2022. Mike Evans is also going in A tier. For Tom Brady, he's been a tremendous target. Just a guy that, can run down the field. We saw him beat Jalen Ramsey. He can run. He's their guy that runs, most of the routes over the middle and down the field. Again, I think it's 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He had 14 touchdowns last year, which was his most ever. Terrific wide receiver for Tom Brady. I think he's a perfect fit, and I think he's going to still be productive for years to come. Jamar Chase is going to be at the heart of A tier. Jamar Chase. I remember I would argue with Jack about Chase over Devontae Smith, and it's looked really good so far. He had arguably the best rookie wide receiver season ever. I'm still going to give the nod to maybe Odell and Randy Moss just because Odell did it in 12 games. But Jamar Chase in the playoffs was also spectacular, and I think Joe Burrow was maybe 1 second of offensive line protection away from hitting him down the sideline for a Super Bowl championship. But hey, we're here. I think Jamar Chase is only going to build on what he's done, and we've seen on the I'm an Athlete podcast, he wants to get the Triple Crown. Hey, I think he can do it. Chris Godwin is also going in A tier. I know there's a lot of A tier guys. I might have to switch this around, but CG is their absolute sideline guy. The back shoulder throw, every time Tom Brady throws it, he is there. He is money along the sidelines, as I've said. He's a perfect complement to Mike Evans. He's super productive. Really sad that he tore his ACL, but I don't think it's going to hinder him one bit. DeAndre Hopkins is still an A tier. People used to keep him in S. I think he's dropped a little bit, and here's why. Yes, he's been injured, but the also thing is we've seen games where he just flat out hasn't, stepped up. 8 catches for 48 yards against Jason Verrett in 2020 for a playoff berth. 2021, there were games that he just got locked down by Jalen Ramsey and more. So I think he's, lowered a little bit. And also in 2019 with the Texans, there were games where Will Fuller was their wide receiver 1. So there's no shade on DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he's got the best hands in football. He will come back strong. He will be a great wide receiver 1 for the Cardinals. I think he stepped a little bit down compared to the guys in S tier. Deebo Samuel is also in A tier, and I'm so glad to put him there finally. I'm gonna put him in the, in the front of A tier. You guys know how I love my guy Deebo. To see how popular he's become and to see how many people have rode around him. And even as a scout, when I talk to our recruits, just asking, what do you guys think of Deebo? Everybody just raves about him. And I'm just so proud and so happy the fact that he's become such a star in this league. I could go on and on about his versatility, versatility from the slot as a running back. But I saw all this coming. So I'm going to take my little pride moment here, my little bragging rights, and put him in A tier. Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is a really interesting one. I think he's a step below these guys. I think he's in C tier for now. And that's only because he had those great 5 games to end his rookie year. 2021, also he had a couple good games. I just didn't see enough for me to say, hey, he can be a wide receiver 1 for the Niners moving forward. I think the Niners will need to draft somebody if they do trade Debo, which I think they will. Ayuk is a great wide receiver 2. I just can't see him as a wide receiver 1, which is why I'm going to put him in C tier. DK Metcalf is going to go in B tier. Now, I know that's going to upset some people. Why is he below all these guys? My thing with DK Metcalf is I think he's at the heart of B tier, right? Like the really front of it. And my only thing was with Russell Wilson, he would get outplayed by Tyler Lockett. Like Tyler Lockett was their wide receiver 1 when Russell Wilson was at quarterback. Now, DK Metcalf is a physical freak of nature. He can run all those deep passes. He can catch all of them. He had 12 touchdowns last year. My only thing with him is his inconsistency in terms of yardage. And obviously, yards are not the things that detail what a wide receiver can do. But, like, for example, against Marshawn Lattimore, he had that 184-yard touchdown, but, again, it was just a one big play. So, for you to be a true top 10 wide receiver, I need to see these things every time. And it's really going to be a true test when, Seattle has its next quarterback, whether it's Drew Lock, a guy they get in the draft, maybe Baker Mayfield, who knows. But, yeah, he's at the heart of B tier for me. Tyler Lockett is also going to join him in B tier. He had 1,100 yards last year. As I mentioned, again, number 1 wide receiver when Russell Wilson was on the field. He had a perfect passer rating when targeting him. He is honestly one of the best sideline catch wide receivers I've ever seen. The way he can work his feet inbounds along the sidelines downfield is just tremendous. He gets under the ball so well, whether it's too high shell, maybe thirds. He beats safeties and wide receivers with ease. Just look at maybe the first 4 games and you'll see what I mean. He is a really underrated wide receiver. And sure, he may not be a go-to, wide receiver 1 that's going to put up 1,400, 1,500 yards, but I sure as hell want him on my team as my wide receiver 2. Tyler Boyd's going to go in C tier. It's no hate to Tyler Boyd. I just think, he's a wide receiver 3 for the Bengals, and for good reason. But he's one of the best wide receiver 3s in the game. I think Cincinnati is perfectly happy with him being in their slot, and he can go for 100 yards any given Sunday. It really just depends on if he can get open, and sure, there's some inconsistencies with his route running, but he's a tremendous wide receiver 3. Hollywood Brown's going to go in C tier because he has his moments. Again, the only thing is the inconsistencies. I've had so many frustrations with his route running. It's like it just gets on my nerves because he's so fast. He just really can't run the routes that he's supposed to. And there will be times where he will get shadowed so well despite his speed that it just irks me so much. I mean, the biggest example I go to is 2020 when the Ravens played the Pats. J.C. Jackson matched him step for step on a go route. And this is a guy who is known for being tremendously fast. And J.C. Jackson matched him step for step. So he's not a wide receiver 1. I think he's, again, a deep play guy, maybe like a Deshaun Jackson type of player, but not a wide receiver 1 for Baltimore. Michael Pittman, it's the same thing. That's my issue with him. He's a really solid wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1 for the Colts. The Colts need to upgrade there. He's definitely, again, a guy who can go for 100 yards at any given moment. He's just not consistent enough to where I'd say, hey, he's the guy that can, beat a number 1 corner every time. Just not that guy for me. He's in that C tier, well and aware. Same thing with Christian Kirk. He's not a wide receiver 1 in my eyes. I know the Jags paid him like one, and everybody's mad at the contract. I'm defending the contract in the sense that they had to pay him that money because it's Jacksonville, so they have to overpay for free agents. But yeah, I'm kind of worried with Christian Kirk being the wide receiver 1 for Trevor Lawrence. I think you need to get a little bit of a guy who's bigger and stronger. Christian Kirk, again, he's had his moments when D-Hop went out, but to get outplayed by Antoine Wesley is a little bit concerning for me. A.J. Brown, for sure is an A tier. He is a tremendous talent. Everybody compares Treylon Burks to him, but I think A.J. Brown is in a class of his own just because I think what he can do at his size is crazy. He can take these jet sweeps. He can run bubble screens. He's a big body wide receiver. He's terrific against man coverage, terrific on play action passes down the field. He buys time for Ryan Tannehill by getting open. So much love for A.J. Brown. Courtland Sutton is going to go in the back half of B tier. I think I might rearrange it, might put him in the top of C, but I think with Russell Wilson, he's going to thrive. He's there. He was in 2019 when he had, I think, around 1,150 yards. He was the guy that you just lined up at X and threw it down the field. And to this day, I think Denzel Ward's worst coverage game was against Courtland Sutton. He torched him. He is a terrific route runner. He's got great footwork along the sidelines as well. While I do think he struggles with catches over the middle, especially with contested balls, sometimes with safety help, I think one-on-one, he's a terrific playmaker. Stephon Diggs. I think people might get a little bit mad that I don't have him in S tier. Again, he's at the top of A tier. Josh Allen, what he's done to help Josh Allen and himself, it's just unworldly. 2020 was just such a big leap for him. He was a fifth or fourth round pick out of Maryland. And I remember, if you guys know, Anto the Boss, shout out him, YouTube channel I used to watch. He put me on Stephon Diggs. And since then, I've been really loving his game. And then, in 2020, he took another step to it. 2021, he followed it. Sure, the playoff game, he didn't get open, but I think he was used a lot as a decoy, which goes to show how valuable of a piece and asset he is for the Buffalo Bills. Jerry Jeudy, look, I'm going to put him in C tier for now, just because, again, he hasn't had the production that these guys in B tier have had. But to say he can't break out in 2022 with Russell Wilson as his quarterback, you can't say that. He definitely has a chance to break out. And again, his route tree is amazing. I mean, just watch clips of him absolutely burning defensive backs. He's got all-world talent. Let's just see if he can put it together in 2022. Tim Patrick, I don't want to put him in D tier, but again, I'm going to, just because I wouldn't want him, I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 1 or 2. So I guess I'll put him here just because I think he's a wide receiver 3, kind of at best. I think Jeudy and Sutton really clear him. I like the contract that Denver got him for. I think he's underrated. I just don't know what the volume he would get if he could be a true wide receiver 1 for the Broncos. I may shift it around, but we're going to keep him in C tier for now. Amari Cooper is going to go in B tier. Welcome to the Cleveland Browns, Amari Cooper. I hope he, elevates his game and maybe goes up to A tier. But look, he's never had a season over 1,200 yards. He's really just that consistent, 1,100-yard guy. He struggles on road games. He does, and especially in the cold too. So that is a little bit concerning with him going to Cleveland, but his route tree is incredible. He was the wide receiver 1 for the Cowboys, and he was so crucial to Dak Prescott getting his money, because in 2019 when he came there, they were 3-5. He turned it around, and they made the playoffs. All love for Amari Cooper. I mentioned 2019. It was the 2018 season when they went 3-5. He won a playoff game with them. So instrumental to Dak Prescott getting that money, and hopefully he can do well with Deshaun Watson. Jacoby Myers is going to go, he's productive, but I'm going to go in D tier just because I wouldn't really want him as a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3. I think I could get guys that are better. It's really no hate on him. He's a good wide receiver. Again, this is the top 50, right, in the entire NFL. So to say he can't play is definitely not true. But I just wouldn't take him over, guys that, top tier X, Y, and Z guys. Same thing with Marvin Jones. Shout out Cal alum, but again, I don't think he's a starting caliber wide receiver anymore. He'll have his, 50-yard games. I just wouldn't want him. I think he's a little bit too old. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's not as explosive, which really sucks to say, but it's just a fact of the matter. Devontae Parker is going to go in C tier, and the only reason is because he had that one tremendous 1,200-yard year. He's going to go to the Pats. Hopefully he can revive it with Mac Jones. But again, same thing. I just think we need to give him, some more time before we really say he can be a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2. Corey Davis for sure is going D tier. I mean, this guy's been a disappointment. Literally every team he's been on, both the Titans and the Jets. I remember Jets fans going crazy saying this guy's going to revive his career. Top 5 pick, and what did he do? He really did not do much for them. I think he's a D tier wide receiver. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Russell Gage. I like Russell Gage. So I'm going to put him in the back half of C tier. I would take Russell Gage over all these guys. I think he really stepped up when Calvin Ridley was not there. My only thing is, again, the consistency. I think the Falcons do need to get a wide receiver 1. He's just not that. But for him to be a wide receiver 2 or 3, he's going to be great for the Bucs. Again, welcome to Tampa. He's going to be great in the slot alongside Evans and Godwin, and he can actually alternate with Godwin outside the slot and run a couple angle routes that Mike Evans does. So let's take a look, maybe final look at this list. I'm going to maybe shift things around. I'm just kind of mad at the fact that I put Galladay and Sutton here. So I'm going to move them down to C tier. I think I'm going to keep these guys here just because, again, yeah, Tony is the only one that's too early to tell, but the rest of the guys are for sure in D tier. I think the rest I'm happy with my C tier. B tier, okay, my only thing is with like Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe I could put him in too early to tell. But I'm going to put him at the top of C tier right now. I think that's fair just because these guys have shown production at the highest level. The rest of the guys here in A tier, I'm totally okay with. I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 14 guys in here, but I think these guys have a step over these guys in B tier. I think I would just take these guys. I think I'm going to make some changes. Unfortunately, I'm going to move Adam Thielen down to B tier just because I think yardage-wise, I can't really put him there anymore. I think the rest of this list I'm really happy with. So, yeah, I think Thielen's at the top of B tier here. He's just that cutoff. Maybe shift these around. Like, Debo's going to be right here. Jamar Chase over McLaurin if I can move them. Yeah, then yeah, maybe D-Hop here. I think this is a fair list. Again, just maybe some shifting around, but yep, this is gonna round out my wide receiver list. Let me know what you guys think. Is there any guy that I maybe should have put a tier above? Maybe do you guys not like my changes towards the end? Please let me know in the comments down below. I will respond to all of them, and I really appreciate it. So that concludes my wide receiver tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Anish from the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I will see you guys next time.